Hey everybody, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we're going to take a look at if we can add some tube saturation to a mix, a synth mix, with the T console from Sonimus. And the T console is a console emulation inspired by an old 1960s era tube console. And the plugin really has two main components to it. You've got the channel section, which you'd lay on every single channel in your mixes if it's going through the channel like that. And within it, you can change to the bus version of the plugin, which you'd put on your buses or master bus. So just diving right into the controls, we've got a VU meter on top, which is great for monitoring your levels. We can actually change the calibration of the VU meter, which is great. We've got this button push, which we can choose off, warm, or hot. And that allows us to push the signal, sort of reduce the dynamic range that we have and get warmer results, a little bit more clipping out of it. We've got a fader to make sure we're hitting the sweet spot of the emulation. We've got a couple of filters included, which is nice, a high cut and low cut filter. Very gentle filters at 6 dB per octave. If we click the modern crosstalk here, we can choose no crosstalk, vintage or modern. And this sort of mimics the interaction between channels, which is the bleed between channels that happens on old consoles. Vintage is more, modern is less, off is no crosstalk at all. We have this little in knob to bypass the saturation on and off. And this fat switch, which is sort of the original emulation, and we turn it off, we get a more modern sound. Clicking this gear icon, we get a few little extra settings in here. Trim as drive automatically reduces the output as you increase the gain. So this fader, instead of actually increasing volume, becomes like a drive control. We've got a meter pre, which puts the meter before the saturation. Filters pre, which puts those filters before the saturation. An output level control, and a mix knob in those extra settings. If we jump over to the bus side of things, you'll see a lot of the similar controls here. We've got your VU meters, again, able to be calibrated, the same crosstalk features, and the input and fat. Jumping back to the channel here. You can also, this is ungrouped right now, but you could also create some master groups and control all instances of the plugin together at the same time, which is really cool. We can change the size of the interface. We've got oversampling options right here. I'm going to put it on 4 times oversampling for now. And that's pretty much it. In terms of workflow with a plugin like this, what Sonimus recommends is that you add T-Console as your first insert on every track in your session, as if it's running through the actual console. And before you actually do your rough mix with the faders in your DAW, you're going to use the faders in T-Console to level out the tracks to be about 0 dB to hit that sweet spot in the console emulation. And we can always go into the controls here and pull the output down if we need to drive this up a lot and we want to just kind of match the volume we had for the mix as we got it. So for example, if I take this single channel here, turn on T console, and just kind of do it like that. Push that input, pull that output out. Now I'm at the same level I was before. If I go through every channel in the mix doing that, I'll skip ahead so you don't have to hear me do all that. So now if I jump back to the first instance of the plugin, I've gone through all the different synth channels, balanced it out by usually pushing it up hotter to get it around 0 dB on the VU meter, and then pull that output down to level match. So I'm going to turn all the different various instances of the plugin on each channel off, just bypass them, all powers off. This is that synth part all put together without any console emulation. And now I'll engage all instances of the plugin across all the different channels. And what you're going to hear when I engage all the different instances of the plugin is that you get some natural compression. Actually, it's going to get a little bit softer because that's the way I set up that gain staging. Listen to it on. I'll bypass it on and off as it plays. So obviously a really subtle effect to use, which is sort of cumulative across the mix. So putting this on one channel, you get some effect, but it's not a very noticeable effect. You put it across all the channels in your mix, and that all adds up to give you a more warm, tube-like sound. And that really was the magic of those old consoles. It wasn't that they drastically changed the input signal, it's that a bunch of small, subtle changes to the signals across the mix made a big difference to that overall sound, with that slight bit of compression saturation that's added, which a lot of us perceive as warmth. So there we have it, T-Console from Sonimus. I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can check out T-Console for yourself. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in that comment section. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.